Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome, and thank you for joining us. I'm very happy to see everyone here, and we have a few more people coming in over the next few minutes, but we're going to get right into it. My name is Lena Jacomopoulos, for those of you who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet. I'm the program director here at the World Council of Credit Unions / Worldwide Foundation for Credit Unions for GWLN. Our initiative began about 12 years ago now, and today I'm here along with a couple other amazing ladies as co-leaders of the Madison Campus Sister Society. And it's wonderful to see a lot of our friends and colleagues from CUNA and CUNA Mutual Group and your credit union partners. So thank you everyone for joining us and the greater family, I should say, of CUNA and CUNA Mutual Group this afternoon. And it's great to see a lot of our she-for-she's and our he-for-she's for joining us. Thank you, new and older members of GWLN. I'm going to just pull up a quick PowerPoint and just give you an update for GWLN and what's happening and what's coming down the pike. But today I'm here not alone, obviously, with a couple other individuals as well. And give me a second here so I can begin sharing this. There we go, and there we go. Okay, so I'm hoping everybody is seeing this now. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna bring you guys down here. And Global Women's Leadership Network, one of our big things this year is about bridging the gender gap for GWLN. And across the board, bridging a lot of different gaps, I should say. And what you're seeing here is a couple of the things that we wanted to focus on this year for the Worldwide Foundation for Credit Unions, focusing on bridging the digital gap, the safety gap for disaster relief on an international credit union system level, for GWLN, the gender gap, and for our program around young professionals around the leadership gap. But like I said, I'm here today with a couple other amazing colleagues together with me, my team member, Olivia Carini from GWLN as well, Allison Carr, who's also here from your credit union partner. From CUNA, our co-leader is Marlo Foltz, and from CUNA Mutual Group, we have Magna Kukurecha and Alexandra Shade as well. And the ladies are on the call as well, so they can say a quick hello too as soon as I finish up here quickly. Just a couple things for our program this year and GWLN and the sister societies overall. What I want to share for those who are coming to us for the first time, we are a network, an initiative, as I mentioned, that started in 2009, and the focus was about making the measurable difference in the lives of the women and its members across the globe. And what you see here is just a taste of individuals that were part of our in-person meetings when we were meeting in person, and how we pivoted last year along with the rest of the world to making all of our meetings be in person, be virtual, and connecting our members across the globe and our sister societies. And what I think is most important is continuing to connect even more so. And that's what I loved seeing coming out of the pandemic. If I can say we had some positive coming out of it. What you see here is a taste of sister societies right now across the globe. If you go to the website, you'll be able to hover over the map and see, where they are in each country and who the leaders are respectively. I'm very thrilled that this is continuing to grow and the map is augmenting even more so with more pink. My focus this year, and I say my just for GWLN, our focus this year is about trying to close off all the states in the US so we can have at least one GWLN sister society in every US state. And we launched Hawaii last month. At the end of this month, we'll be launching Dakotas, and we have a few more states coming down the pike. What's exciting is a couple of our sister societies have increased in a couple of our international countries as well. Brazil has brought on 15 more. So today we're about at 145 across the 28 countries that you see where we have sister societies. So I'm very, very excited about the work there, and more so about the work that we're doing with a lot of our co-leaders to bring all the programming to the members across the globe. Just a little taste of where we are internationally. Numbers again from last year, that you see on the left part of the screen, just where we are. And what I love about these two photos here, as I was looking at all the individuals in the photos, is that we have representation here from all the continents where GWLN has a presence. The only one we don't have right here is actually Australia, but we have Africa and Asia and Europe and North and South America. So it really does show the true breadth and depth of what GWLN is. And just a couple dates coming up over the course of the next few months. Tomorrow, actually, our GWLN scholarship application closes. We launch it every year on International Women's Day, which is March 8th, and the scholarship is open for a year. So get your applications in if you still want and can and have time to apply, I should say. It's an opportunity for women from around the globe to submit an application, and after evaluation process, participate in that year's International Credit Union Conference, which is what you see above, which this year will be a virtual conference, albeit, and it will be happening from July 14th to the 21st. We have a couple webinars scheduled over the course of the next few months happening, with our partnership with eLeadership Academy happening, and one happening in May coming up on personal leadership, and one in the fall on people leadership. And our Executive Readiness Summit, which is also going to be virtual this year as well, taking place the 27th to the 29th. So just some dates to remember. And lastly, I just wanted to say a large thank you. We can't do what we do without our big industry partners. And the 4 organizations you see here are the 4 largest that contribute to GWLN. That being said, there's a large number of credit unions, individuals, and other service providers that also contribute to the growth of the program. So we always say thank you to all of our industry champions. And also we want to encourage everyone to continue connecting with us through social and reaching out directly should you have questions to either myself or one of our co-leaders. And I will then turn it back over to my co-leader, Allison Carr, who can introduce our presenter for today, who is Jennifer Roman.
Thank you, Lena, and welcome everyone. We're so glad to see you. Before I introduce our presenter, just want to check in. How's everyone doing today? Give me a thumbs up if we're good. Double thumbs up, Angela. I love it. It's okay if you've got a half thumbs up or down. Hopefully by the end of today, we'll have a thumbs up. But we're really excited to have Jen Roman here with us. She is captain of the Emergency Medical Services Division for the City of Madison Fire Department. She has served as a firefighter, paramedic, training officer, and lieutenant during her service. As the EMS program director for Madison College in the School of Human and Protective Services, she helps others learn and become equipped to serve in these areas as well, and has earned a master's from UW-Madison in adult and continuing education. She is an active Girl Scout volunteer for over 30 years, helping girls and women become their best selves. And not one to sit around waiting for something to happen. She took gender equality or inequity in her area of service head on and founded Camp Hero. We were talking earlier that it should be called Camp Shero because it's for all the girls and the women. And it's an experience to introduce young girls to the careers of police, fire, and emergency medical services, and provides mentorship for those who wish to pursue it. And she wants you to know that you can achieve great things even while battling a serious dependence on chocolate. And having Easter just pass, I can relate to that tremendously. And today she's going to share a little bit about her experience. The title of her session is "Where Did You Get That Helmet?" And it looks so real. And other questions that she gets and has received throughout her career. So Jen, welcome. We are honored to have you here with us, and the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I am sharing my screen and hoping that you see it and that you can also see me, right? All right, so the first thing that I want to say is those of you, well, Angela knows me pretty well. She would be able to confirm that I would much rather run into a burning building than speak in front of a group. And the whole Zoom thing like puts a whole nother layer on it. So I am quite nervous. And if you don't mind, I'm just gonna do just a couple things to help me feel a little bit more comfortable. Hang on a sec. Yep, okay, that helps. But this is the thing that really helps me. And I'm honored to be matching you all in your pink today. So let's get to it. You're going to get to know a little bit about me, and hopefully I'll get to know a little bit about you. And I want to talk first about the subject of this presentation. Where did you get that helmet? So I'm showing a picture of my Ragnar team. And we had 12 female firefighters who ran the Ragnar relay race from Madison to Chicago over 2 days. And as we made our way through the course, we would wear our helmets to cheer each other on and do all of the checkpoint kind of stuff. We didn't wear it while we ran. That would be way too hard. So as we made our way along the route, we would get questions like, hey, where did you get that helmet? It looks so real. Or, where did you get that helmet? Is that your husband's? And as we ran away from the Madison area, which actually has a relatively high percentage of women in the fire services, the questions became more and more frequent. And you know, to that, people had never seen a female firefighter. That they were really blown away that they were seeing 12 of us all in our helmets. And we used that opportunity to educate people, and we had some really great conversations. But the experience made me a little sad because I can guarantee that one of my male colleagues have never been asked that same question, right? Only me. So, so why is that? And I'm going to give you some statistics to sort of put your mind where my mind is. So according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and these are last year's numbers, 33.7% of EMTs were women. And police, do you have any guesses there? Higher or lower? What do you think? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Yeah. Thumbs down, actually. 17.1%, and that's actually on the rise. So they are making some headway. Now, what do you think about firefighters? Get a number in your head. Last year, 4.4%. Only 4.4%. Like, that's crazy. And for women like me who are promoted in the fire service and have a supervisory job, we don't even make enough to make a percentage. So in the list of demographics, there's just a dash for women in a supervisory position. So that kind of explains, you know, why people were asking us those questions. So what I thought I would do is continue this in sort of a question answer format, and I'll present some of the questions that I'm asked pretty frequently and answer them. And then at the end, we'll have a time for you to ask questions. But this comes with a warning, okay? I'm a very visual person, so I have lots of slides and lots of pictures and stuff. But I don't want you to be distracted by the number of different hair colors that you see on my head, okay? So, all right, here we go, buckle up. All right, first question. So there's a lot of curiosity about firefighting. There's not a lot of us around, so what exactly do you do? And so I started thinking about that, and I wrote down a list, and really we are jacks of all trades and masters of a few is kind of how it works. We need to know about construction and plumbing and electricity and medical things, and just a lot. And we have to be really good problem solvers. And so what I thought is for the next 4 hours, we could go through this list point by point by point. You don't want to do that? Me either, okay. So I'll sum it up this way. We help people. when something happens that individuals are unable to manage themselves, when they have chaos in their life, when they have lost control, we show up and we offer our hand and we help them. That's what we do. I am asked this question a lot. What is your scariest or your funniest or your grossest call? So I'll wrap that up into my most memorable call. And excuse me, this story always comes to mind. So I was stationed at station number 9 here in Madison, which is over on the west side of our city. And we were called to a ranch house in the area by a Meals on Wheels volunteer. So the volunteer was trying to deliver a meal to the resident who was a 100-year-old woman. And the volunteer had been knocking on the door and knocking on the windows and hadn't gotten any response. So she called 911. And we showed up with our ambulance and fire truck. All of our calls here, we send both an ambulance and a fire truck. The ambulance has paramedics and the fire truck has 4 EMTs and extra help for us. And I got out of the ambulance and walked up to the front door with my bags, and the engine went around back to force open a door because we couldn't find a key. And they let me in the front door, and one of the EMTs guided me towards a hallway, and I was walking down the hallway and the EMT came out of the bedroom door and walked towards me, and he cast his eyes downward and he shook his head no. And in our industry, what that is nonverbal communication for she's dead. And so, you know, I had to go on in and assess. So I walked into the bedroom and I actually stopped at the door because I was struck by how beautiful it was. The woman was laying in the middle of her bed and her arms were crossed across her chest. There was this beautiful chenille bedspread over her, and the light was shining in through the white sheers on the window, just like this picture. And I thought, how beautiful. And I hope that when it's my time to go, that it's just like this. And then paramedic Jen kicked in, and I thought, well, I have to run through our protocol. So I walked up next to the bed and reached out and shook her shoulder and said, ma'am, are you okay? And she opened her eyes and said, what? So what sometimes I'm not very tactful or eloquent. And so I responded to her, oh my gosh, we thought you were dead. I know, I shouldn't have done that. Anyway, my husband calls that a 2 underwear day, right? When something unexpected and scary happens. So that was one of my most memorable calls. Pardon my helmet here. I'm gonna just take that off for a little while. So next question, did you always want to be a firefighter? Well, no, I didn't know that I could be. I graduated high school in 1984, and in the 1980s, that was when the first lawsuits were being brought against fire departments by women who wanted to work for them. Growing up, my best friend's dad was part of the fire department and eventually became the chief. He never brought Donna and I down to the fire station. That just was not what girls did. So it was never in my mind to be a firefighter. So maybe you're wondering, well, what did you want to be? Well, I thought I could be a princess. But then there's that whole problem of finding a prince. So that didn't quite work out. For a little while, I was a hair model. I really was. But they just give you hair products. They don't actually give you money, and you can't live on that. So that didn't work out either. And then I thought I could be an actor. Like, I really thought that. You know, I'd done that all through middle school and high school, and I loved it. And I actually went on to study at the Goodman School of Drama at DePaul University in Chicago. But I'm actually a super, super shy person, and my anxiety just got the best of me, and I wasn't able to audition well enough to get any good work. But when I think about it, and in all seriousness, I wanted to be a teacher from the time that I knew what a teacher was. And this photo is a picture of my stuffed animals and dolls from childhood. And I literally kept a grade book for them. I took attendance, and I you know, graded their math homework and all that stuff. And Fluffy, that cute little orange dog, was always getting A's, and Barbie always got D's and F's. So I think that was a little foreshadowing for me. I'm not sure what that says about me, but I knew that I always wanted to be a teacher. So you're probably wondering, well, then how did you make that leap from teacher to firefighter? Because that's, you know, there's a big gap there. So I'm going to tell you the story because it's actually pivotal in where I ended up in life. I was working as the director of sales at a local hotel here in Madison, and I got pregnant with my oldest daughter, Carmen. And when the president of the stockholders of that hotel found out that I was pregnant, he fired me with the given reason, I'm quoting, "Young, pretty girls can sell for my hotel, not pregnant ones." He actually said that in deposition, okay? Now, this was 1990, and I was stunned. It's 1990. This stuff still happens? Are you kidding me? And the whole event sent me into a pretty dark place. It was very, very difficult. And eventually, with the encouragement from some of my friends, I was able to reach out for help. And attorney Sue Bauman, those of you who are local will know her as a former mayor of Madison, took my case, and she filed a discrimination suit on my behalf. And the EEOC did find in our favor, but the hotel was foreclosed upon before we ever went to court. And none of that really mattered. What mattered is that a switch flipped inside of me. And it was a very, very unpleasant experience, but I emerged stronger and way smarter than I was before. And it was that moment that I made a conscious decision that I was going to live a life of service, that I was going to pursue a career of service, and that my efforts in the workplace would never be spent putting money in the pockets of guys like that. So shortly after that experience, after my daughter was born, I enrolled in EMT school, and that path just led me to paramedic school and eventually a job with the Madison Fire Department and firefighting. And so that's my little baby Carmen, and she just turned 30 years old. So yay. Now, the really good news is I always wanted to be a teacher, and I actually am. I teach my vocation. I teach here at Madison Fire, and I also teach with Madison College. And you know, I have had tremendous influence on the patients that I've taken care of as a paramedic, and the citizens that I've served as a lieutenant on our ladder truck. But being a teacher, I am reaching thousands of people because I'm teaching thousands of students. And what an honor that is. And by the way, that photo of me on the right, that is me getting ready to deliver a lecture on soft tissue injury, bleeding, and shock. So I'm just gonna say that, you know, that acting experience probably had some positive influence on my teaching career as well. So let's drill into this question a little bit. What makes you think you can be a firefighter? So on the surface, that looks okay, but I'll tell you what, it's not. This is a veiled, condescending challenge to my gender. It is asked with the assumption that just because I'm a woman, I'm not qualified to do this job. And we know from research that as early as kindergarten, kids already have stereotypical ideas about which gender can do which jobs. And changing these assumptions is an enormous challenge. It feels overwhelming. And I don't like to be asked this question because it reveals the bias that we all hold. But having been asked it, I have to admit that it did make me search for an answer. What does make me think I can be a firefighter? And I have two sets of people that I can attribute my success to. And the first one is probably similar to many of you, is my parents. And my mom and dad did not limit me. My mom worked as a supervisor in a factory. She was in the same male-dominated environment that I work in, but she didn't have the laws could protect her from discrimination and harassment that I have. And I really admire her for surviving that and being my role model. Now, my dad was an interesting guy. In one sense, he deeply subscribed to gender roles. My mom did the dishes, she did most of the cooking. And I remember as a child, he would pound his fist on the table and say, "Woman, bring me my dinner." But on the other side of it, he never stood in the way of my mom working or pursuing her interests. And he actively encouraged my sister and I to do whatever we wanted to do. So as far as I was concerned, I could be anybody. I could do any job. And I thank my dad for that. Now, the other group of people that I want to give honor to is my Girl Scout sisters. And I know, your organization is similar to what I experience in Girl Scouts. It's a way to connect and grow. Most of my Girl Scout years have been as an adult volunteer. And our founder, Juliet Gordon-Lowe, actually said, "Scouting is the cradle of careers. It is where careers are born." And in my case, she was absolutely right. In Girl Scouts, I learned really practical skills that apply directly to the fire service, like which knot to pick for the job and how to tie it. I learned flag protocol and drilling and maneuvering, which I use as the commander for our Madison Fire Honor Guard. I learned how to manage a budget, market a product, and communicate well, which is all super important as a captain. By the way, I also learned through cookie sales as a girl that I was definitely not cut out for sales, not my thing. I also learned how to coordinate logistics of large events, and every fire scene is a large event. So I had lots and lots of practice before I even came to the fire service. And I learned how to lead people towards a common goal, and all of those are really important skills for me. And all that while, I was being supported by women who loved me for who I am and who I loved right back. They reprimanded me when I screwed up and showed me the right way to behave. They taught me to not take myself too seriously. And they have been there to celebrate every great accomplishment that we have made together. So they're a really special group for me, and I'm honored to be part of them. Most importantly, my Girl Scout career has taught me this: I can be filled with fear and still be courageous. I can be deafened by the whispers of self-doubt and still be confident. And I can even be riddled with flaws and still be a woman of character. Now, Girl Scouts quite literally got me the job too. So this is a photo of Chief Amesqua giving me my badge at graduation. Chief Amesqua hired me. And so I applied along with over 2,000 other people and had made it through the process. And Chief Amesqua was interviewing about 30 of us. And during my interview, she said, "Have you ever taken an oath?" And I said, "Well, not in employment, but there's the Girl Scout promise and law. And I really believe in what it says and how it can guide me and how it makes me a better person." And she said, "Can you recite it?" And I said, "Well, yes, ma'am. On my honor, I will try." And I recited the whole promise and law. And she leaned back in her chair and she shook her head, and I knew she was going to hire me. But then remember that sometimes I don't have tact or can't keep my mouth shut really. And so I said, "Is there a firefighter's oath?" And she said, "Well, yeah, there is." And I said, "Can you recite it?" And she said, "No, I can't." So when she handed me my badge at graduation, she said, "Hey, Jen, I can recite that oath now." And that's what we're laughing about. So that was a neat experience. All right, buckle up. We're going to talk about some difficult stuff now. So what is it like to be a female in a very male-dominated environment or career? And as I said, I'm a visual person, so I have some graphics to represent how I feel. So some of you are familiar with the story of Sisyphus, and he was condemned to rolling a boulder up the hill, up a mountain, and when he got to the top of the mountain, it would roll down the other side, and he would have to roll it back up. And I feel like that every day. Like there's a lot of effort every day. And a lot of times for me, it feels like someone's pushing back on the other side. And I want to give you an example of how this plays out, and you'll be surprised by the story. So one of the things that is difficult in the fire service is there's not very many of us, so things that are specific to women really don't get paid attention to. And so we had women on our job who would experience pregnancy, and they were left up to the whim of the administration at the time. So there was no policy, there were no guidelines, they were whatever that admin decided would happen with them did. And so women would go on to what we call light duty because they couldn't be out in the field without being able to put their turnout gear on. And they would lose money, they would lose seniority, they would lose vacation, et cetera, et cetera. And really what happened was if a man and a woman started this job at the same time and they had exactly the same career path, except that the woman got pregnant, the man would finish way ahead as far as wealth and promotion and seniority, all that stuff. And that was a big problem. I mean, pregnancy was seen as an illness and treated that way. So we worked really, really hard, pushed the boulder up the hill to get a policy that recognizes reproductive health. So before pregnancy occurs, when pregnancy occurs, and after pregnancy, and taking care of family and being able to safely express and store breast milk, which is kind of hard to do when you're in a fire engine, just saying. And we worked really hard at that, and we wrote a policy and we submitted it and we got it signed. We're at the top of the hill, right? We made it to the top of the mountain. This was October of 2019. 2019, I know, right? And then the policy went to be signed, but it got changed to a memorandum of understanding, which has a sunset on it. And either side can sunset the MOU at any time. So there went the boulder back down the other side of the mountain. So that's just sort of just one example, and kind of a big example of how we experience this environment. Here's another one. Rosabeth Moss Cantor introduced a theory of tokenism in the 1970s. And basically in her theory, she said that when there is a minority subgroup in a larger group of majority, that it's like a spotlight is shining on them. And because there's a spotlight, they're more likely to be scrutinized just because of the higher visibility. And then when the mistake is made by a member of the minority group, it is attributed to the group, not to anything else. So if I have trouble making a hydrant, which means grabbing the 5-inch hose and hooking it up to a hydrant, if I have trouble doing that, the error is ascribed to my gender. It's because you're a woman. But if one of my male colleagues has trouble, the error is ascribed to he had a bad day or there was something wrong with the equipment. Interesting, huh? And so that's where the target comes in. That is very difficult to overcome. And I have been a victim of it and witnessing it for 23 years now. Now, interestingly, this is just something for you to gnaw on a little bit. Subsequent research on tokenism found that when men are part of a minority group, so men in teaching or nursing, that they did not experience these same negative effects. So it was okay for them to be a minority in the group and they didn't experience it like we do. Interesting. Now, this image I love, and I found this analogy in Laura Liz Wood's book, The Loudest Duck. If you haven't read it, please do. She proposes, if an elephant and a mouse are locked in a room together, what does the elephant need to know about the mouse? And the answer is nothing. The elephant doesn't need to know anything. But what does the mouse need to know about the elephant? Everything, because its survival is essential to knowing everything about the elephant. So what that does is it requires the mouse to constantly study the elephant and make strategies just so it can survive. And that's what our environment is like here. We are constantly studying and strategizing what we will say, what we will do, etc. So the other thing to consider is the elephant can't experience the environment in the same way the mouse does, or vice versa. Right? Can't. The elephant has ascribed power just because it was born an elephant. And the only way that the two could happily exist in the same room is for them to actively engage with each other and share power. So my question is it possible when there's no motivation to share power, will it happen? And that is the work that we are trying to do here. Something for you to gnaw on. Now that's all gloom and doom, but really honestly, this is what I feel like most of the time. I feel like a superhero, I do. This is a deeply satisfying career. I get to help people every single day. I get to teach every single day. I am challenged physically, intellectually, emotionally. This job has given me financial stability. It opened the doors to higher education for me. Now, I do wish that I had those abs, and I'm still working on it, but, but it's a possibility, right? And shouldn't all those wonderful things be open to anybody who wants to have them? I think that the answer to that is yes. And I thought about that for a really long time. You know, the first half of my career was thinking about it and talking about it. And, you know, how do we get there? If it should be available to everybody, then how do we make it happen? The idea of it just is completely overwhelming. Like, we're not talking about just one little department. We're talking about societal change around the world. And I thought, this is unreachable. There's no way that I can do this. And then Mackenzie reminded me of something. So this is my oldest granddaughter, Mackenzie. She calls me Wella, which is short for abuela, which is the Spanish word for grandma. And when she was just 3 years old, she and her mom were out shopping, and she saw a fire truck in the parking lot, and the engine had responded for a child that was locked in the car. Mackenzie saw that truck and she started yelling, "Wella, Wella, Wella!" Because in her mind, I was on that truck and I was on every truck. And that's just the way it is. Nothing strange about that at all, right? So I thought there's got to be a way that we can help girls think like Mackenzie. Like, it's just the way it is. And I should say girls and boys, because the stereotype and bias exists in all of us. So I happen to be in a unique place at that time. I had been volunteering for Girl Scouts for a really long time and had earned the trust of a lot of women volunteers and leadership in the organization. I was teaching for Madison College, and district-wide had a lot of contacts through fire, EMS, and policing. And then in Madison Fire, I had promoted up to lieutenant. So I had some ascribed power and connections here. And I took all of those people that I knew, and I picked some really important, similarly minded and well-connected volunteers. And I said, hey, can we meet about this? Let's see what we can do. And this really amazing group of men and women founded Camp Hero. And I'm really, really proud of them for doing so. So Camp Hero is an experience for girls that helps them build courage, character, and confidence while they're introduced to the protective services, which is fire, EMS, and policing. Camp Hero, our program, is open to any girl from kindergarten up through just graduated from 12th grade. And then when I say any girl, I mean any girl. Anybody who identifies as a girl and anybody worldwide is welcome to participate in Camp Hero. Our very savvy group of founders decided to make Camp Hero a Girl Scout program. And there were really practical reasons, like, you know, they have policies and procedures that assure the safety of girls and adults. They're a 501c3 organization, so that helps with fundraising. They have properties that we can use. They have insurance, so we could keep it affordable for girls. But also, they are the experts in all things girls. They even have their own research institute in New York City. Girl Scouts also has allowed us to do gender-specific programming that is nearly impossible for government-funded agencies to do. And we found out that the Girl Scouts did a great job of insulating Camp Hero from the personal and political agendas that are swirling about out there. I know you all know a little bit about agendas and how they can interfere. So for camp, the littlest girls come and attend a half-day session with an adult buddy, and the oldest girls get to come for a whole week. The curriculum was written from scratch by professionals in the protective services with the help of Girl Scouts. All of the lessons are hands-on. They're all taught by real firefighter, police officers, and EMTs. And girls, you might find them rappelling from the roof of our training tower, or using the jaws of life to cut apart a car. They start IVs, they apprehend suspects, they force open doors, identify fingerprints, treat trauma patients. We teach them to use radios to communicate, and how to stay physically fit. We even teach them how to clean toilets, because that's like something you have to do when you work in a fire station. You got to clean your own toilet. So we teach them how to take care of a station. And I love this slide here. MedFlight didn't just come to visit us. Those girls in the picture actually set up the landing zone and landed MedFlight. So it's pretty cool stuff that they get to do while connecting with mentors. Now, I just want to talk here about Ruby for a second, because I claim that we develop courage, character, and confidence. And Ruby illustrated confidence for us. So she's actually in middle school when this photo was taken. And I know she looks smaller than that, but she's in middle school. And when she came to camp, she was behaving as we often see with middle schoolers. So she, you know, arms crossed, eyes down, legs crossed, would only look at you if you said her name, that sort of thing. So then we gave her an axe, and we gave her a tool called a Halligan, and taught her how to break open a door. And this is how she looked after 20 minutes in that single station. You could literally see her confidence just blossom. And it was really a beautiful thing. And we see that every single day, every single year at Camp Hero. This year will be our 10th year. So I'm hoping that you're thinking, whoa, can I help out with this? This sounds pretty cool. And the answer is yes. And I have 3 ways that you could do, that. So the easiest thing is just tell a girl and her parents, let them know that this camp exists and that they are welcome to come. We have had girls from California and North Carolina, and we even had a girl from Venezuela. So it truly is open to anybody. The second way that you could help is come and volunteer. Camp Hero is run by volunteers, and we have opportunities that range from, you know, teaching the technical skills to helping girls find their way around, to preparing food, doing book work. We even have a volunteer that balances our checkbook. So I'm just saying there's someone out there that could do that for us. Our volunteers come from all walks of life. It's not just protective services. So these 3 women that you see right now are doctors of entomology. That's what they do. And they volunteer for Camp Hero in 2 ways. First, they do our head checks for us, lice checks, because we share helmets and stuff. So we do lice checks. And so that makes sense. But they also volunteer in food service. So that just kind of makes me giggle. Now, here's another way that you could do it. You can do it. You could take the Camp Hero template and apply it to your area of expertise. Make it happen for girls that might be interested in what you already know. This is my friend Sandy Thistle. She is in construction, and she took the Camp Hero template and made Camp Build. And so girls at that camp get to learn how to use saws, and they do construction and plumbing and electrical work and even welding. That's a girl in that welder's helmet. Isn't that awesome? And we are happy to help you make that happen. We'll tell you everything we know and connect you with people who can help you do it. So if that's something that you're interested in, please let me know. So I want to wind up here. As Sally Ride said, I think it's important for little girls growing up and young women to have a role model in every walk of life. And all of us, we are all role models. Kids are watching us. They're watching how we interact. They're watching how we treat each other. They're watching what we do, and they're listening to what we say. So I want to introduce you to my youngest granddaughter here. This is Penelope. And Penelope has learned to use a radio. And if you can't hear this, that's all right. I put in captions, okay?
Firefighter Penny, this is Captain Umbrella. Go ahead with your transmission. I love you too. Copy that. Firefighter Penny, I love you too.
I love that. I could watch it 1,000 times. So, you know, I don't know if Penny is going to be a firefighter. This is Penny just this year over on the right. But if she does become a firefighter, she is definitely going to do it in her own way, and it'll be in a pink frilly skirt. And I love that idea. So please reach out to me. You can email me at campheroforgirls@gmail.com, or that's my cell phone number. You are welcome to call me, and I would be happy to have conversation with you about what we talked about today, or some things that you'd still like to know, or even you know, using the template to do your own thing. So I am going to stop sharing my screen, and I understand we get to do a little Q&A session.
Thank you, Jen. Wow, you shared some amazing information, statistics. It's really shocking, and your experience in 1990, and when I think back, you know, I was graduating high school at that time, and to think that these issues still existed is just shocking. But thank you for your commitment to advancing gender equality in the EMS service. So a couple questions. I think you kind of touched on this one a little bit through your presentation, but I'm just going to ask anyway. If you weren't currently in fire service, in the EMS service right now, what would you do today?
Yeah, I would be a high school teacher. That's really where the path that I was on. And then I had 17 years of life that swept me around and then dropped me into the fire service. But yeah, teaching is really my passion.
Well, that definitely comes out. So I have a secret question that Angela sent me. So thank you, Angela, for sharing this question. It's not secret anymore, is it?
I'm like, so much for being anonymous.
She's gonna wonder, how did I get this background? So Jen, your husband is also in service as a police officer. And I believe he has a background in crime scene investigation. So over your career, have there been any synergies or conflicts that came about as of the work that you both do?
I would say mostly synergy, because it's difficult for someone who's not in the protective services to understand the stress of the job and what we see. And, you know, our typical dinner conversations, even with the kids around the table, were about, you know, dead bodies and cardiac arrest and babies and, you know, frustrations and all that kind of stuff. And so Dan and I were able to really help each other grow in our professions and also survive our professions. And we do have a synergistic relationship. I actually throw that into a lecture about albuterol and Atrovent, which are two medications that are given for asthma, and they work better together than they do separately. It's synergistic, like my husband and I.
That's beautiful. Now, we talked a lot about how the EMS service has evolved over the years. There's been progress, but there's so much more to do. And you have Camp Hero, which is a great way for girls to learn more about the opportunities. So what advice would you give to young girls and young women that are interested in pursuing a career in fire or EMS? And how would they, and to advocate for themselves?
And just, you know, so overall advice for young people is like, keep your mind open. You know, when I graduated high school, I had no idea the career opportunities that were out there, or even within, like you think about the medical community, all the different things that you could do in medicine. You know, you just don't have, you just don't have that until you get into adulthood, if you open yourself up to it. If a person was interested in going into the protective services, my specific advice would be physically fit. Do what it takes to keep yourself safe and healthy, because it's a physically demanding job and emotionally demanding job. And so when I say fit, I mean in your brain too. And I would say don't get in trouble, because it makes it really hard to get a job when you're competing against 2,000 other people for a position. Like, you have to be cream of the crop, so don't get in trouble. And you don't have to know it all. We work as a team, and it's okay to say, I don't know. Let me ask my team members. Let's figure it out together and work on those relationships. The City of Madison Fire Department is way more interested in hiring a type of person than a person who has a bunch of certificates, right? So be the person that can make the world a better place, and that will make you a better servant.
One last question before we wrap things up. Are there any affinity groups within protective services to help connect others who are members of minority groups? Well,
thanks for asking. Here in the City of Madison, we have a group called Ignite, and it is a group for women. It's open to any woman for us to connect. We center our ideas right now in the City of Madison, just because that's where the largest part of our membership is from. But we also support any woman who is in the industry and interested. And we also support students. But there are other affinity groups. So our Madison Fire has a group called Sable Flames, which supports the African-American individuals on our job. And they've been active for much longer than Ignite has, and have done a great job with connecting and recruiting and helping, and you know, and doing all the things that we all need to do to make this a better place to work.
Fantastic. Magna, do you want to ask your question? You have one more question? You're on mute. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Perfect. I loved your session, Jennifer, and it was so interesting to see all of your different challenges in your journey. My question was really about being a woman is hard enough in any field, anywhere. Being a woman of color for me has its own set of challenges sometimes. When I think I have a daughter, and when I think about her, my question to you would be, how do you try and engage with, other women or women of color come and, maybe join the services? And what advice would you have for someone like me, in a corporate job, come with its own sort of stigmas and things in certain roles you should be in certain roles and not be in some. So I was just curious from that perspective. I know it's a lot of different questions. So what advice would you have?
Yeah, so that's a lot, and I'll do my best to concise.
We could do a whole session on it.
So one thing that you should know about me, you probably have already observed, I'm white. My husband is Puerto Rican, and so I have 2 daughters and 3 sons who are also Puerto Rican. And all of my kids now are adults. So I have a little bit of understanding about their experience in the world, not just my girls, not just as women, but also as minorities. In fact, my oldest daughter was in kindergarten when she came home and said, "Mama, what's a spick?" Pardon me for saying that. But that happened in kindergarten, right? So that she's been facing that all of her life. And I am now at the point where I'm about to retire. I'm retiring on January 3rd. Yep, you heard it here, and it's the truth. I would say that the hardest thing has been to keep going, right? You're pushing the boulder up, you're carrying a flag, you're advocating for yourself, you're advocating for others. And sometimes you are just stopped in your tracks, like just stopped. And that can be really, really frustrating. But no doesn't mean no. It just means you've asked the question at the wrong time. So line other people up, ask somebody else, go at it a different direction, and keep going. And always, always, always stay connected with those who are your advocate. You know, I talk a lot about my affinity with women, but honestly, my greatest mentors here in the fire service have been men, because they believe in me, they believe in equity and inclusion, and they have been terrific allies. So don't give up. And if you ever feel like giving up, just give me a call and we will commiserate over Girl Scout cookies.
I love that.
Choice.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I think that's a fantastic note to wrap our Q&A on. And if Alex is standing by, wanted to kind of cue her up maybe to share about our next meeting coming up in June. Put you on the spot, Alex.
Hey, everybody. Sorry, I was just about to go into another meeting that I'm facilitating. So we are going to actually have a part 2 from our December conversation in the space related to equity, racial disparities, and bringing back in the fantastic Jessica Cavazos, who is the Executive Director and CEO at the Latino Chamber, Sagacious Livingston, who is the CEO and founder of Infamous Mothers, and Winnie Coraja at NATEM. So feel free to Google any of them. We're just going to go head into 2021. It'll be like mid-2021 check-in and talking about all the things that our communities and our organizations are facing. And Jennifer, thank you again so much for your very visual and very real conversation with us and presentation. Thanks.
Thank you, Alex. And yeah, if you had a chance to join us in December, or you didn't have a chance to join us in our December, please look for information for our June meeting. It's going to be an amazing, amazing dialogue. And Lena, I'm going to kick it back over to you to kind of close us out.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, thank you to Jen Roman for spending an hour with us today. I feel like you gave us a lot more than an hour's worth of info, statistics, data. So truly, truly empowering and just inspirational, and gives us a lot of food for thought of what's ahead for all of us and the future generations. But we always say we're doing all of this not just for us now, but for many future generations down the line, whether they're daughters, nieces, and so on. Thank you for your time with us. We really appreciate it. To everyone who joined us, thank you for spending the hour with us. Like the ladies, our co-leader said, we're looking to have our session 2 in June, and we'll be posting that up there as well. And if you want a little background information, we can easily share with you as well the link to the first version of the conversation we had with these amazing presenters that Alex mentioned in the meeting that we had in June, and look for a couple more Sister Society meetings from this chapter or this group happening till the end of the year. But most important of all, you don't have to be from Madison to join this specific Sister Society meeting. You can be from anywhere. Today here we have Trinidad and Tobago, we have Northeast, We have a couple other areas across the country. So I'm very glad to have everybody here. Thank you for spending time with GWLN. Thank you to my co-leaders for making all of this happen. And thank you to Angela Prestile for introducing us to Jennifer Roman. Angela, we got you on the hook for finding someone for next year, April 2022, just so you know, okay?
Hey, it's a lot of pressure to follow Jen. Love you, Jen. You did an amazing job.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good afternoon. Take care.